much. Meantime, we want to let you know that Governor J.B. Pritzker is now holding a news conference on this funding freeze. Let's listen in.
Working families and the most vulnerable people in our state who are affected by these cuts. The United States Constitution clearly states that Congress has the power of the purse and sets laws to obligate federal funding for all 50 states. What Donald Trump tried to do in the last 24 hours is illegal. Let's be clear. This is a demonstration of cruelty against people who depend on us. Working families who rely on federal assistance to pay their rent, people who need help paying their utility bills, parents who need critical programs like Head Start for quality, affordable childcare, and 3.5 million Illinoisans who get their health insurance through Medicaid. Despite what the White House press secretary said at the podium earlier, I believe it is my duty to report to you the truth of what actually happened today in Illinois. Donald Trump's administration is lying to you. The White House's attempt to walk back what they did today does not match what we saw on the ground. They assured us that Medicaid would not be affected. That was a lie. Our state agencies were unable to access the Medicaid system until an hour ago, preventing payments for services. And this has been reported from states across the nation. When we reached out to federal agencies, they informed us that they have been directed not to discuss any guidance with states. They have canceled previously scheduled meetings for this week. The White House assured us that Head Start would not be affected. That was a lie. Providers across the state experienced outages, and some were unable to make their payroll. They assured us that they were doing nothing to take away individual assistance from the most vulnerable people in our state, but they refused to say that they would restore LIHEAP, the Low-Income Housing Energy Assistance Program, payments to support the unemployment system, and Meals on Wheels. These are programs that hundreds of thousands of Illinoisans depend on: children, seniors, veterans, working parents. Let's just be clear about what happened over the last 24 hours. At 7:42 p.m. last night, we saw a memo from the White House saying that they were pausing federal funding across the board. This morning, along with all 50 states across the country, we discovered that our ability to access critical federal funding had been cut off. And now the administration would like us to believe that these were just coincidental website outages. Donald Trump and his administration have not earned the benefit of the doubt. They are either lying to us or they are critically incompetent. This is what happens when you staff the federal government full of Project 2025 contributors that don't have any experience governing and don't think that the laws apply to them. The consequences of their actions are not hypothetical. They are not numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real people, ordinary Americans struggling to afford groceries, rent, and health care. Donald Trump promised to lower prices for average Americans his first week in office. Name one thing that he's done to accomplish that. Prices have gone up, not down. Let me say this in no uncertain terms. What the president is trying to do is illegal. Let me say that again. What the president is trying to do is illegal. I know these are challenging times, and the Trump administration is trying to confuse the American people. That's why it's so important that we speak plainly. I was very happy to hear as I entered this room today that an administrative stay has been granted. Let me assure you, the state of Illinois will fight this unlawful order with everything we have. We're working with the Attorney General, who has moved forward with other states to continue pursuing legal action to protect the people of Illinois. Last November, on the day after the election, I made a promise to the people of Illinois. When it comes to threats to our freedom, health, or security, if you come for my people, You come through me. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton.
Hello, everyone. I am deeply disturbed by the actions that bring us together. The Trump administration has made an unquestionable declaration of where their values lie. This is an attack on the nation's most vulnerable populations to cut seniors off from food or strip access to health care from critical patients. Is a display of cruelty driven by the values of this new administration. If it feels like you are being asked to subscribe to a nation fueled by hate over hope and retribution over problem solving, you are not imagining things. Whatever you are feeling right now is justified. And because the actions taken today do not respond to the very real needs of everyday Americans, you're going to hear a lot of noise. Hear me when I say, no amount of backpedaling can override the truth they just dropped at our feet.
You've been listening to the Lieutenant Governor and Governor. The message from Governor J.B. Pritzker, what President Trump tried to do today is illegal. One thing is clear at this hour, there is definitely a lot of confusion and uncertainty about what the impact of this freeze ultimately will be and the status of federal funding right now. What happens in the future? The governor is promising Illinois will be a part of the fight to stop this freeze, as reflected by Attorney General Kwame Raoul's actions late this afternoon, not to mention the action from a federal judge the governor mentioned just there, who has temporarily blocked this freeze until Monday.